I think the Giants were one of those teams you looked at last offseason before the 2022 season and said, in terms of the key hires, it sure feels like they got it right. They brought in Joe Schoen from the Buffalo Bills organization to be their new general manager, and you got to say anybody's better than Dave Gettleman. That's progress right there. But the real coup was being able to hire the Bills' offensive coordinator as well, Brian Daboll, to be the team's new head coach. And this is a guy you had seen work some wonders with Josh Allen the past couple of seasons before that in Buffalo. And he spent some time in Alabama as the offensive coordinator. Like, you knew Daboll was going to be good. Or you had that sense, right? Like, it's always hard to know with how an assistant translates to the next level, that head coaching job. But you got some guys and you say, I feel confident in them. I feel like they're going to be that dude when they get that job. So it wasn't surprising, I don't think, to anybody that the Giants were improved in 2022. Maybe in some ways a little surprised by how much they improved. But this is a team that ended up with a winning record. They went to the playoffs, then won a road playoff game. How many people would have seen that happening? However, that's one of those dangerous seasons, if you know what I mean, in terms of it creates a false sense of security. It's really fool's gold. And it could trick you into thinking that you're further along in your process than you really are, and or better than you actually are as a team. Because, you know, it's one thing to sit there and say we're going to franchise tag Saquon Barkley. Okay, I get that. But then you say, we're not going to bother franchise tagging Daniel Jones. We're going to give him a big-ass $40+ million a year contract for Danny Dimes? Yikes! Is there any job other than a big-time corporate CEO where you could make more money being mediocre to bad at your job? Well, maybe elected member of Congress. For a job that pays them about $200,000 a year. A lot of them end up multi-fucking millionaires, and they all absolutely suck at their job. You name it, they suck. Probably swallow too. Who the fuck knows? Fucking freaks. But Danny Dimes is getting $40+ million a year, and he is mid as shit. So now perhaps in a season in 2022 where the focus should have been like, bring in Daboll, get his program built in, but maybe you want to do bad enough where you can get a position to take another quarterback and officially move on from Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes apparently enticed him just enough, and they were pleased enough with the result that they could have made a really bad mistake. A Blake Bortles type of mistake. And at least when the Jaguars re-signed Blake Bortles, you could say Blake Bortles had a 4,000-yard passing season. Blake Bortles won multiple playoff games in that 2017 season. He had the Jaguars in position to be up double digits in the fourth quarter against the Patriots in Foxborough in the AFC Championship game. And Danny Dimes ain't even on that level, so it's scary. So coming into this draft, you're looking at the Giants, you say, okay, they probably need to get a couple real impact players and difference makers. One of these teams that needs quality versus quantity, right? I mean, they had some needs, right? But they really needed some impact players. And I think they got one in round one. They traded up with the Jaguars for 25 to 24 to go up and get Deonte Banks. And I look at him. He's got the prototype physical skill set, talents to be a cornerback one. He's got that man coverage ability, that outside coverage ability that you could build your secondary around. You know, he really fits that Wink Martindale system well, too, so they can focus on blitzing more, and Banks can hold up more in man coverage. I really like this pick for them. And, you know, you only traded up one spot. Don't let the Jags take your guy if this is the guy you want. Who gives a shit about a 4th or 5th round pick? Go get your goddamn guy at that point. What I liked about this draft the most for the Giants was their approach on day 2. If you're going to insist on giving Daniel Jones all of that money, and you've already spent a 1st-round pick on that corner that you needed, you better go get some more support on offense for Danny Dimes. They got John Michael Schmitz at pick 57, which was really good value at that slot. He should be a day 1 starter and a long-term high-level starter for them at center. I was pissed when the Bears traded up to fucking 56 and passed on taking it, because I thought that's what they were doing, jumping somebody like the Giants so they could take JMS, and they didn't do that. And then, if you saw a little bit after the draft, they showed the Giants' war room on day 2. And they were talking about, the Bears, and they were wondering whether they were going to take JMS at 56, and they were almost content to, take Jalin Hyatt at 57. And then the Bears took Tyreek Stevenson, and the Giants are like, look, this is John Michael Schmitz. And then they got to a point where they're like, no, we want Jalin Hyatt. We feel like he can bring some good value at this point. We need his skill set. Let's make a move, go up and get him at 73, and that's what they did. That's really good process. It really was. These are 2 guys that they had rated very similarly on their board at pick 57, and they were able to get one at 57 and one at 73. And I love this Jalin Hyatt pick for them, even if you say, well, all he could do is run fast. Okay, they needed some of that. You gamble on that type of athletic upside in round 3. This is a guy that, in theory, you could have made a justification for certain teams taking him at the tail end of round 1, and especially at the beginning of round 2, and you were able to get him at the early portion of round 3. So that was really good process. I thought day 2 was a highlight for the Giants and their draft room. In terms of day 3, I don't expect that they're going to get a lot out of that, although I could look at Eric Gray and I say, he's got a chance to sneak on the roster as a running back 3, and he might have some running back 2 upside. But this draft is about those first 3 picks. It really is. With maybe Gray having a chance to stick in some type of rotational role. But Deonte Banks needs to be a day 1 starter at corner. John Michael Schmitz needs to be a day 1 starter at center. And if you got that right away for a team that made the playoffs last year, you feel pretty good about what you did with the draft. And now you sprinkle in a Jalin Hyatt. And if he can give you any type of playmaking ability as a receiver on a team that really badly needed it, then this is a pretty good draft for the Giants. And that's the rub here, right? Is you can add some really good talent. But if the fundamental foundation of how your team is built is flawed to broken, you're only adding more onto that flawed, bad, broken foundation. And that's how I look at this situation with the Giants. It's great you get a center to better protect your quarterback. It's great you get a speed option at wide receiver, give your quarterback another option. But it's still Danny Dimes. This is still a team that's going to be built based off of running the ball first with Saquon Barkley and running the ball second with Danny Dimes. Yikes. And Dimes is a good runner, but he's not that type of Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields type of dynamic athlete runner. He's certainly not. He's not that type of game breaker as a runner. So the Giants could sit here and hope that they got this draft right. And I liked what they did here on those first 2 days. I really did. But at the end of the day, is it really going to matter all that much? And I don't know that it will.